8:04, Talk 107.3 FM, WBRP, mornings with Brian Haldane, off and running. Brian here with you, John LaBeouf producing, coming back from this 4th of July weekend. We are starting you off at 74 degrees in downtown Baton Rouge, though you heard the forecast from EKC right there. A lot of that repeated pattern, a lot of repeated hot with the pop-up monsoons to go along with it. We got a lot of ground to cover this morning, y'all, and it's one of those mornings where it's difficult to triage what's what and what's first. And also, we are in a spot where we are a local show, but we do our best to step outside of Baton Rouge when large events happen, and the catastrophic floods in Texas, I think, qualify for that. So we'll be covering that throughout the morning from different angles. Big, beautiful bill passing heading into the weekend. We'll cover that through different angles. Of course, we got all your Monday staples as well. Medical Monday, Will Green from LABI, Moon Griffon stopping by. We got a lot of ground to cover, so let's get to it. Top stories and trending.
Number 5.
Number 5 starts us off overnight in Pierre Park. 2 children were able to escape a large house fire this weekend thanks to their parents. Crews responded to the home on Eagle Point Drive around 11:30 p.m. Saturday night. When they arrived, they found the home fully engulfed. Camp owner told firefighters he heard an explosion, saw his Toyota Tundra on fire, which quickly spread to the rest of the home. After alerting his family, he jumped from the second-story porch. His wife dropped their 2 children into his arms, and then she jumped off herself. All of the family members were taken to the hospital for evaluation. Now, after the fire was out, fire officials posted on social media expressing concern about second-story evacuations in 3 recent fires. They said in all 3, residents had to jump in order to escape.
Number 4.
As you might expect, the United Cajun Navy has been called upon to assist with search and rescue efforts in Texas following the tragic floods. Brian Trasher with the United Cajun Navy says they are using what he calls special ops volunteers for this rescue effort, mostly combat and law enforcement veterans. This is due to the nature of what they might find during their rescue missions.
Number 3.
Task forces made up of personnel from the Baton Rouge Fire Department, Zachary, West Feliciana, and Eastside Fire Departments deployed to Texas after the catastrophic flood. These firefighters are from a group called LATF2. They were sent to help with swiftwater rescue and urban search and rescue operations.
Number 2.
Baton Rouge police is investigating a shooting early Saturday morning in which an officer killed a suspect in the Fairfields area. Officers responded to a call about an emotionally distressed individual at a residence in the 5100 block of Washington Avenue just before 4 a.m. Police say when they arrived, they found a 38-year-old man who appeared to be under the influence of drugs holding a pair of scissors. A source said the man threatened the officers, leading them to use a taser on him. BRPD said after the taser proved ineffective, an officer shot the individual. The 2 officers involved are on administrative leave.
Number 1.
Captain Devin Booty, a St. Gabriel police officer, was found stabbed to death at a home Sunday morning, and his accused killer was arrested after telling the town's police chief something had happened. Law enforcement, this according to law enforcement, St. Gabriel police said Warren Mitchell III, 25 years old, of St. Gabriel, had been arrested. No motive was given, though reports are the 2 were arguing. What's trending, John?
Well, the president did get his big, beautiful bill across the finish line heading into the 4th of July weekend.
Senator Bill Cassidy is going to join us at 8:05 to talk about it, kind of break down what's in it, because I know he's got some personal legislation that got folded into this involving charter schools. So I know all the big talk right now is about Medicaid. All the big talk right now is about Medicaid. We got to wait and see. I mean,
that's right.
You're going to hear one thing from one side, one thing from another. So
yeah, hopefully it'll bring some clarification to it.
Yep.
Someone who is opposed to the big, beautiful bill, Elon Musk, is launching a new political party called the America Party.
I'll pass.
I mean, come on, man.
I'll pass.
Oh.
Okay. To what end?
Right.
To what end?
Yeah.
He can't be president because he's not American born, right? So to just start running proxies? I think
at this point he's just doing it to see if he can.
Yeah.
See how far he can take it, right?
Awesome. Well, you know what? We're here for the media buys.
Oh,
whatever candidate in the American Party wants to come on, we will sell them advertising all day long. I will take that money for sure.
Absolutely. Well, here's some local news here. The Baton Rouge Rougarou and Rougarou fans stepped up over the weekend in the wake of the catastrophic Texas flooding. The Rougarou were playing I'm sorry if I mispronounced
Seguin.
it. Seguin? Okay. River Monsters, who were from the affected area, so they held a supply drive to make sure the trip back to Texas wasn't empty-handed.
Yeah, good on them, man.
Yes.
Good on the Rougarou for that.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is great. I mean, doing what you can.
Yeah,
Helping out.
you find your lane and you help out in that lane, and that's
right.
what they were able to do over the weekend. So we'll talk a little bit about the actual Rougarou games after we take a quick break. Before we get you to that break, though, snap, hang on. I don't know if y'all just heard that ding in the background.
Yeah.
Was that audible on the air?
It was audible
I'm
to me
having
for sure.
all kinds of computer problems this morning. Tell you what, let me just go ahead and do this by memory. Got to remind you about the folks over at Landmark Bank. LandmarkBankLA.com is the website. LandmarkBankLA.com. Founded in 1897 as a community bank. Here in 2025, they remain a community bank. They know what they're here to do, and they're here to serve local communities. I'm not going to list out where you can find all the local branches. Go to LandmarkBankLA.com, hit the little About tab. You will find the full list of branches right there. I will tell you, though, that as a community bank, they don't want to be in downtown Baton Rouge. They don't want to be in downtown New Orleans. They don't want to be in downtown or midtown Manhattan. They want to be in local communities like Zachary or Bruley or anywhere in the surrounding area. That's what they've done for over 100 years, and they do it as well as, if not better than, anybody else. Personal banking, business banking, they've got you covered. Check them out online at LandmarkBankLA.com. Quick break. Sports is next. I get my coffee. Jim Ryan might be a minute or two late coming back, or at 6:40. He might be a minute or two late because he's just, as you would imagine, you're the ABC reporter who's in Texas, talking about the Texas flood. 6:15, Talk 107.3 FM, WBRP, mornings with Brian Haldane, rolling right along. All right, we're going to get to the Baton Rouge Rougarou, who posted up a couple wins over the weekend in just a little bit. But I want to start with something a little bit off the beaten path for sports this morning. You know how in the SEC we say it just means more? And everybody else is like, yeah, whatever. It's like you can't know it until you experience. Like our humidity. You can't know it until you experience it. Like Mardi Gras in New Orleans versus Mardi Gras in Baton Rouge. It's like until you see Rex turn on the canal, you can't know it until you experience it. Like the difference between a Saturday night in Death Valley versus a Saturday night in Strawberry Stadium. You can't know it until you experience it. Oklahoma's athletic director, Joe Castiglione, was on Sirius XM satellite radio. And he was actually asked about recapping his first year in the Southeastern Conference. And that's pretty much what he had to say. This is a longer cut here, but I just want to let it run because for those of us who have been in the conference forever, we know it just means more.
In this league, you have to, a B-minus performance will get you beat almost everywhere. You have to be good enough to navigate the difficulty of the teams you face because they're all good. And I think that was something that we thought about. It wasn't necessarily unexpected, Chris, but you don't really fully understand it until you get in and do it. And the coaches that we talk to in the league, that's one of their pieces of advice. You have to survive it because they've all been through it. Sometimes teams lose games that everybody expects them to win, but they don't stop to think about the toll the other games leading up to them took on that particular team versus the one they're playing. And sometimes you're just not at your best as a team. And that's when, some maybe unexpected losses occur. But it's the gauntlet everybody said, and we expected. But you know what? That's what we signed up for. That's where we want to be. And we are so, so happy we're a part of the SEC. And if anything that has happened over the course of this year, it's that it validated over and over, not that we needed it, but it validated over and over that moving to the SEC was and will be great for the University of Oklahoma.
How about that, huh? How about putting a little respect on the conference, the best conference out there, when those that want to chip away, those who want to make their comments from the cheap seats will have something else to say. But from a guy who was in the Big 12, then moves over to the SEC, he's like, wow, the struggle is real. So I stumbled across that, thought it was just, if nothing else, a great way to start the week when we got SEC Media Days coming up roughly a week from now. So, all right, moving over to baseball, Baton Rouge Rougarou hosted the Seguin River Monsters on Sunday evening for a doubleheader. You had back-to-back 7-inning games. The reason they played a doubleheader on Sunday was because Seguin is from Texas Hill Country. Seguin, the River Monsters, are along that same stretch that got hit with the flooding. So they had trouble getting out of town. I mean, not just getting out of town, but, rounding up and getting out of town. So the River Monsters come into town on Sunday. Rougarou post up a back-to-back or a doubleheader win, 5-2 and then 6-2 for the Rougarou. And John told you all about what Rougarou players and Rougarou fans did for the Seguin River Monsters, as before sending them back home with the supplies drive. I mean, just an unbelievably difficult time to even think about baseball. But the Rougarou do continue to roll. I mean, they're really, really good this year. We'll be out there Friday night for the Acadiana Cane Cutters for Guarantee Media Night. Right now, here's the Fox Business Report. There was a big ass jumble of letters there. I don't. When Jim Ryan calls in at 6:40, ask him what his out time is,
Okay.
please, so that because I don't want to. Pretty clean report coming in from the Chavez Tire Traffic Center this morning. We are looking at the volume on 12 westbound is basically non-existent right now, coming in from Livingston Parish. I mean, you might find a couple other folks on the road, but to start off your work week, coming off the holiday weekend, it's a relatively light start. Meanwhile, I-10 westbound coming in from Ascension Parish looks good. 10 eastbound coming in from West Baton Rouge Parish is looking good. Both bridges are wide open, and I-110 is looking good as well. Meanwhile, on your surface streets, I literally have nothing to report. There are no accidents. There are no stalled vehicles. There are no breakdowns. There's not even a cow walking across River Road at this point. That's your look at traffic from the Chavez Tire Traffic Center. $625, Talk 107.3 FM, WBRP, mornings with Brian Haldane, rolling right along. Let me give you that guest rundown real quick, just to let you know who's going to be on the show. Coming up in our next segment, we've got I want to be very clear about this. We have Jim Ryan from ABC News scheduled to join us. I will tell you, on a morning like this, a guy like Jim is going to be unbelievably busy. He's a reporter for ABC News, and they have a ton of affiliates around the country. Jim is based in Texas, and we have him slated to talk about the catastrophic flood that happened over the weekend. As there are still, the death toll is over 80. There's still 10 girls missing from Camp Mystic. We're going to get every ounce of information we can out of Jim coming up at about 6:40. Also coming up this hour, we're going to talk about the App Accountability Act that was passed in our last legislative session. Coming up next hour, we're going to speak with Dr. Yash Shah from Our Lady of the Lake for Medical Monday. We're talking about epilepsy there. Will Green from LABI is going to stop by. Got a couple more notes from the session, and also want to talk about the big, beautiful bill. Senator Bill Cassidy is slated to join us at 8:05. I'm waiting on a final confirmation there. I know we had a window to get him in. Hopefully we'll get him in. But Senator Cassidy, obviously, every Republican vote in the Senate was an important one on this, right? It came down to J.D. Vance's tiebreaker vote. So, yes, you needed every vote possible. Senator Cassidy was one of those yay votes. We'll talk with him at 8:05, 8:15. Of course, we chat with Moon every Monday, talk about everything under the sun with Moon. And then we're going to talk with Kelly Schulz coming up at 8:35. She's with Nolan Company. They've got a few things we want to talk about on the tourism front down in New Orleans. Not well. Is it tourism or is it business? The Amtrak Mardi Gras service is coming back. Service will begin on August 18th. Tickets are already on sale right now. If you want to take a train from New Orleans to Mobile, it's on its way back. I want to talk about that a little bit and what that could actually spur. What other possibilities are there here? I know there's a contingent in Baton Rouge that constantly wants to nostalgically live through trains and sell it as an economic driver, and they make a decent argument every time they come out, and that's awesome. So we'll talk with Kelly about, is the Amtrak Mardi Gras service the precursor for more to come. Also, Essence Fest was over the weekend, and they got a big UFC fight coming up down there. So we got a lot to cover with Kelly Schulz from NOLA and Company. That's coming up at 8:35. Reading this from WBRZ's website, talking about the flash floods in Texas. They killed more than 80 people. I believe 82 is the latest toll. 10 girls and a counselor were still unaccounted for at Camp Mystic, a Christian summer camp along the river, the Guadalupe River. For past campers, the tragedy turned happy memories into grief. Beyond the Camp Mystic campers unaccounted for, the number of missing from other nearby campgrounds and across the region has not been released. Quote, "We don't even want to begin to estimate at this time," Kerrville City Manager Dalton Rice said Saturday, citing the likely influx of visitors during the 4th of July holiday. Think about that for just a second. There's really no way to put a number on things right now, except for those you have found. Like how many people are missing, I don't know that you can quantify it just yet. Survivors have described the floods as a pitch black wall of death and said they received no emergency warnings. Kerr County Judge Rob Kelly, who lives along the Guadalupe River, said Saturday that nobody saw this coming. Various officials have referred to it as a 100-year flood, meaning that the water levels were highly unlikely based on the historical record. Now, I've been told that this happened about 40 years ago. There was a flood along that river in the 80s. And I need to go back and find all the specifics and whatnot. But there are times where I don't know if seeking blame is the right course of action. Of course, I'm not a victim, nor do I have a family member who is a victim, so I don't know anybody involved yet. But it's the middle of the night, and this thing was just horrendous and tremendous at the same time. Kerr County officials said they'd presented a proposal for a more robust flood warning system similar to a tornado warning system, but members of the public had reeled at the cost in the past. There is going to be a lot of blame tossed around here. There's going to be a lot of finger pointing going on. In fact, over the weekend, goodness gracious, this was infuriating. Was it yesterday? Yeah, I guess it was yesterday. Scrolling through Twitter, and people are blaming the big, beautiful bill for it. Oh, if Trump didn't make the cuts to NOAA, then this wouldn't have happened. Stop. You got all kinds of chronological problems if you're going to push the blame there. We will do our level best to effort the Louisiana folks who are helping out in search and rescue and cleanup. See if we can't get them on the show to get updates, to get you inside this unbelievable tragedy, monumental tragedy. And we will take you inside it next with Jim Ryan from ABC News right after we check in with ABC News. I have to go get my guest binder.
Good morning, Facebook crew. How was everyone's 4th of July weekend?
638 Talk 107.3 FM, WBRP, mornings with Brian Haldane, rolling right along. We're going to get to ABC News' Jim Ryan here in just a couple minutes as we're going to check in over in Texas. And Jim Ryan's actually based out of Texas, so he will have a pretty decent some pretty decent firsthand information for us. And we always appreciate our partnership over there at ABC News. While I do have a second before we dive back into the news of the day, I do want to remind you about the folks over at neurojust.com. Neurojust.com, who are they? Well, they're a clinic that treats they treat depression and anxiety through transcranial magnetic stimulation. What is that? Well, it's an FDA-approved, non-invasive treatment for depression. They use magnetic pulses to stimulate areas of the brain involved in mood regulation. You come in for your sessions. It takes about 3 dozen before it's all said and done. They have a batting average that's ridiculous. They have close to 70% showing remission rates that don't require them to come back afterwards. You got upwards of 80% show response rates at all, where you're just somewhere on that path to being in a better state mentally. If you want to learn more, check out neurojust.com. Neurojust.com. Neurojust. Neurojust.com. I got the chance to talk with Jordan from Neurojust. He's actually going to be my next guest on Louisiana Business Weekly, which I believe is dropping later on today. So be on the lookout for that as well. Just an absolutely fascinating conversation. There's only so much I could tell you about it in 60 seconds. So I would rather let him tell the story because he tells the story so much better. In the meanwhile, neurojust.com. So over the weekend, and of course all the headlines are going to revolve around this, over the weekend there was just the pop-up storm that hit Texas. Was it dropping, 10 inches of water in just a matter of minutes? Guadalupe River in Texas Hill Country just flooded over. This was early Friday, sent the river into just flood stage, washing away homes, vehicles, campgrounds. Jim Ryan will be on with us in just a little bit to talk about that, as he's covering it for ABC. Coming up on our next segment, you heard that story from Louisiana Radio Network about the App Accountability Act. We're going to talk about that a little bit as well. The App Accountability Act will be in our next segment, and really, really looking forward to the conversation we're going to have at 8:05 with Senator Bill Cassidy, as the big beautiful bill was supposed to be the headline of the weekend, right? Whether or not you were for it or against it, whether you call it the big beautiful bill or the big ugly bill, one way or the other, it was that was going to be what was talked about. And tragedy in Texas kind of overtakes that. Joining us now from ABC News is Jim Ryan. Jim, I appreciate a couple minutes this morning. How are you, sir?
Good, Brian. I'm right in Kerrville, where the worst of the damage came. Looking down onto the river, it's still running fast and high right now, but nothing like it was 3 days ago. Along the banks of the river, you see huge trees that have been toppled over by the force of the water that came through here when this extreme flash flooding happened and took everything in its path, not just the trees, but the cars, the trucks, buildings, entire campgrounds, and the people in those campgrounds. Latest fatality count now stands at 80, including many children.
80 and the what I'm understanding, Jim, is they don't know how to count who's still unaccounted for because there's
Right.
the number of independent campers that were out there.
Exactly, right. We know how many people were registered at these day camps. I think 11 girls from this Camp Mystic are still missing. But, yeah, there's no way of knowing. I mean, if somebody drove up with an RV and parked it there in one of these campgrounds, there's no official count of how many people might have been there. So we might never know how many people were lost in this disaster.
Unbelievable stuff. We're talking with ABC News' Jim Ryan about the tragedy in Texas over the weekend. Jim, let's talk about emergency response or emergency alert. Do we know what went wrong and at what level?
Well, I don't know if anything went wrong. We know that the Weather Service at San Antonio started putting out advisories on Wednesday, a couple of days before the flood happened. But that's not uncommon for this area. This is known as flash flood alley because flash flooding is such a common occurrence, and especially in the summertime, you get a rainfall, and flash flooding is likely to happen. Certainly nothing like we saw though on Friday. You had moisture coming in from the Gulf, moisture from the Pacific, and then coming down from the South Plains, and it all combined for this really horrific situation. And to top it all off, it was 3:30 in the morning. People were fast asleep. So even if warnings had been issued, a lot of people just wouldn't have heard them.
Jim, has this ever happened before? I heard over the weekend that like about 40 years ago they saw a similar instance.
Well, it does happen. Again, not to this extent, but in 1987 there was a flood similar to this one. A school bus with 10 kids on board was washed away. But that happened in the middle of the afternoon. I talked with a woman yesterday. She was went to Camp Mystic in 1957 as a child. They had a flood that year too. So it does happen occasionally. But again, this one's going to be one for the history books in terms of its intensity and certainly its death count.
When talking about search and rescue, and I hate to ask this question so soon, but what kind of timelines have they laid out for it, if they've laid out any?
Well, they haven't. I mean, they're trying to keep their hope up and keep the hope alive for these 400 searchers who are out there that they will find people alive. But, I think that realistically, time is ticking away in terms of finding people alive.
He is Jim Ryan. I know you got to get to your next stop, man. I appreciate you carving out a couple minutes
All
for
right.
us this morning. Yep. Always.
Thanks, Brian.
Yep, thank you. Want to keep him on time right there. The logistics of working this in the timely manner that they need to be worked is another part of the whole scenario here. Told you in our top stories. I mean, two of our top stories were about locals that were headed out that way. You had the United Cajun Navy. We need to see if we'll get the United Cajun Navy on tomorrow, either with their spokesperson, Brian Trasher, or somebody with boots on the ground over there in Texas. But the United Cajun Navy was called out, and they've the way this was worded in that story was kind of unbelievable. Special ops volunteers was what the United Cajun Navy was calling for. And when you think about it, as horrific as it is to think about, when you think about it, that is what's needed, because you don't know what you're going to stumble across. John, am I out for 46 or 47? 47, you sure? Okay. When you don't know what you're going to stumble across downriver. You know what I'm saying? Like, there are still 10 missing children from that one camp. Who knows what you find along the way otherwise. So and of course, along with the United Cajun Navy from here in town, Baton Rouge, Zachary, West Feliciana, and East Side Fire Departments, they'll make up LATF 2. And a group from Shreveport was sent as well. So working the logistics, working search and rescue, it's going to be a days-long, if not weeks-long process, to be sure. All right, full disclosure. I spent yesterday driving to and from Texas. Nowhere near this. I was dropping my daughter off at camp. And the juxtaposition of what the feelings have to be. Okay, like, that's their best week. You go to camp, that's the best week ever, right? Anybody who sent their kids to camp knows it's a level of elation. They come home with new friends. They come home with new experiences. It's just, it's a little bit different. And to have this in the back of the mind is, it's why we have the word tragedy. Quick break, coming back after traffic and Your Money Now. I want you to look again. Are we going to hit it, Your Money Now at 50, or is it going to go to 51? Uh-huh. Okay. Do what? Yes, but it will autofill that minute unless someone zeroes out the spot stop set. Okay. Okay, that's as long as it was. That means Cade zeroed it out because I can't. Cade set up the thing in my computer but didn't give me permission. Okay. Good morning, Christy. Hope she's in this morning. Good morning. Galen says all of the talk about blaming Trump for this is utterly ridiculous. How could people be so stupid? Natural disasters happen and people's lives are lost. The government at any level cannot avoid these types of tragedies. If there's an alert system that is inoperable because it wasn't staffed, because cuts were made, then you have to start looking at that part of the equation. But NOAA sent out their alerts via San Antonio. Like on a national and statewide level, alerts got out there. What I read earlier about Kerwin County, or was it Kerrville County? Kerr County, sorry. Hey, I know Jim Ryan was short, but I want that feature today.
Okay.
Kerr County officials said they had presented a proposal for a more robust flood warning system similar to a tornado warning system, but that members of the public reeled at the cost. I don't know why that, like, if you're looking for someone to blame, if locally they know this is a thing, and you heard Jim Ryan say it, they call it, like, what do they call it? Flash flood, whatever. In fact, you know what? God, I wish we had another place to play that back again. That was, instead of the outside in, let's play that back again.
Okay.
So I want to make sure we've got it ready to roll. 652, Talk 107.3 FM, WBRP, mornings with Brian Haldane rolling right along. We're going to get you caught up with ABC News coming up here in just a little bit. Man, We got a lot of ground to cover next hour. We got Medical Monday coming your way. We have got Will Green from LABI next hour. Of course, we're going to have an abbreviated This Day in History next hour because we are moving Senator Bill Cassidy in where This Day in History would go. By the way, This Day in History is always brought to you by the folks over at 5 Star Printing and Signs. You know where you get hold of them, 271-4096. You know why to get hold of them, right? If your business needs a refresh on the branding, if your business needs a refresh, like let's say you're a restaurant, you've had the same tired menus forever, right? Maybe now is the time to hit up Danny and his team at 5 Star Printing and Signs. They'll collaborate with you a little bit, find your best look, find what feels most professional, most presentable. And then, whether you're talking about menus, receipts, invoices, business cards, brochures, flyers, trifolds, whatever it is, or the signage in your windows or on your walls, 5 Star Printing and Signs has got you covered. And when you talk about merch, which is unbelievably important right now, as I take a sip of coffee from my Demco mug, having your brand out there, being top of mind, being front and center is unbelievably important. For that, we're going to send you to printshop5.com and just tell you shop around. See what you like. See what you want to put your logo on. And then call 271-4096 for 5 Star Printing and Signs. Coming up Friday night, you can enjoy a VIP experience with the Talk 107.3 team and the Baton Rouge Rougarou when they welcome in the Acadiana Cane Cutters. It's going to be Friday, July 11th. Food and beverages will be provided. You can register today under the contest page at talk1073.com. Yours truly will be out there. Moon was asking me if we're throwing out the first pitch again. I honestly don't know. I'm going to have to find that out later on today. Last year, Moon's looking for the long and the short of it is Moon's looking for redemption. Last year, he and I threw out the first pitch for a Rougarou game. I was low and outside. Moon needed a cutoff man. And, he admits it. He admits it. And the thing they don't tell you, the thing they don't emphasize is throw a ball, throw two. That's it. Like before the game, just one whip of the arm. That's all you need to judge distance. It's not about athleticism. It's about you're out there for the first. When was the last time you threw a baseball? So that's where that's at. All right. You heard the story from our news partners at Louisiana Radio Network that Governor Jeff Landry recently signed the App Store Accountability Act. Now, this is something that like your Apple App Store or your what does Samsung use? I'm breaking on the name. I'm coming off a holiday weekend. I'm just not gonna be firing on all cylinders. Regardless, your app stores. This puts the onus on them to verify users' ages and obtain parental consent before allowing minors under the age of 18 to download apps or make in-app purchases. Gene Mills is the director for Louisiana Family Forum. He says many don't realize that when minors download apps, they're entering into contractual terms of service.
Literally, you have big tech titans making deals with kids who have no power or legal authority to provide informed consent to download that app.
I have to wonder, though, how is it a legally binding agreement when you don't know the age nor identity of the person on the other end? Like, how could you be held accountable for something that you have no idea who actually clicked yes? Which is really another reason to have this, isn't it? Just to clear up all the garbage. Now, Mills says the law mandates that features like Ask to Buy be enabled by default for minors, and app stores must share users' age categories with the developers of the apps.
They have the data to do that. And that's the reason we chose the app store as a point of entry and the point of decision. There's no breach of information. There's no privacy concerns. It's simply a transactional decision.
And when it comes to downloading apps, I mean, I'm all about parental responsibility. In fact, I raised some questions about this bill as it was going along the way because I don't like the government picking up my job. My job as a father is to make sure I'm on top of this stuff. But there are so many different opportunities for something to slip through the cracks. Like, I could be doing my job all day long, and there's still the opportunity that a contract is entered before I have access to delete said contract, or before I could step in and say no. When you see, let's say there's a pre-roll commercial before a YouTube video, all right? And you click, and it says click here to learn more, and you click there to learn more, and you're just 2 clicks away at that point from downloading an app. And I don't expect a 13-year-old, a 15-year-old, a 17-year-old, I don't expect a full-grown adult to read terms and conditions. You get to a certain age where you're like, buyer beware. You should know going in. I don't expect that age to be anywhere in the teens. So while as a father, I still take my job very, very seriously, I appreciate this bill in Louisiana Family Forum for, kind of taking the lead and lobbying for it. I appreciate this bill because it makes it so I don't have to be everywhere all at once. It makes it so where I don't have to be a helicopter parent looking over my child's shoulder every time they move a thumb over their phone. Mill says, by the way, the idea of age verification was pioneered right here in Louisiana.
Lori Schlegel, state representative from Mandeville, Covington, and it was tested in the U.S. Supreme Court last week in the Texas law, which mimicked our age verification for porn, and it was upheld 6-3.
The law doesn't take effect until July 1 of next year, though. So we do still have a year worth of having to have that level of oversight. Oh, by the way, he said Lori Schlegel was from Mandeville, Covington. Lori's from the South Shore. Representative Schlegel's from the South Shore. All right, we're coming up on news, traffic, weather. Hour 2's heading your way next on Talk 107.3. All right. Tuesday the 15th has been rebuilt. All right. Thursday's good to go. Okay. Hey, Rich. Yes, sir. Okay. Absolutely. What's his name? To him? Hell yeah. Yeah, give him my number. Yes. Yes, 100%. 705 Talk 1073 FM WBRP mornings with Brian Haldane rolling right along. Hour 2 coming your way right now. Brian here with you. John LaBeouf producing, getting you ready for a busy hour. We got Medical Monday coming up in just a little bit. We got Will Green from LABI coming up after that. But before we get to anything else, let me remind you we're starting off at 74 degrees in downtown Baton Rouge. I'm sorry, 75 degrees in downtown Baton Rouge. On our way up to the mid-90s. You heard that forecast from EKC right there. All right, top stories and trending. Let's go.
Number 5.
As you might expect, the United Cajun Navy has been called upon to assist with search and rescue efforts in Texas following the tragic floods. Brian Trasher with the United Cajun Navy says they are using what he'd call special ops volunteers for the rescue effort, mostly combat and law enforcement veterans. This is, of course, due to the nature of what they might find during their rescue missions.
Number 4.
Task forces made up of personnel from Baton Rouge, Zachary, West Feliciana, and Eastside fire departments deployed to Texas after the catastrophic flood. These firefighters are from what's known as LATF 2. They were sent to help with swift water rescue and urban search and rescue operations. LATF 3 from Shreveport was also sent over there. And talking about the water, we heard from Jim Ryan from ABC News in our last hour about how the water's still high and it's still rushing pretty strong as we're now days removed from the tragedy.
Number 3.
BRPD is searching for, and we're probably going to talk about this more on Thursday during our Crime Stopper segment if they haven't been caught yet. Police are searching for 2 people who allegedly stole $8,000 from an elderly person in an intricate scam. Baton Rouge Police Department stated the scammer approached the victim outside a Baton Rouge restaurant on May 1st, offered to buy them lunch. During the meal, the scammer gained the victim's trust. Police say the scammer then asked the victim to take him to a bank. They picked up another person who officers say is an accomplice. From there, officers say the scammer withdrew a large amount of cash from the bank, asked that the victim could safeguard it at their home. The victim then put the scammer's money in a hiding place where they keep their own cash. While the scammer was distracting the victim, the accomplice grabbed all of the money and took off.
Number 2.
BRPD is investigating a shooting early Saturday morning in which an officer killed a suspect in the Fairfields area. Call came in about an emotionally distressed individual at a residence in the 5100 block of Washington Avenue just before 4 a.m. Police say when they arrived, they found a 38-year-old man who appeared to be under the influence of drugs holding a pair of scissors. A source said that man threatened the officers, leading them to use a taser on him. Taser proved to be ineffective, and that's when one of the officers shot and killed the individual. The officers involved are on administrative leave.
Number 1.
Captain Devin Booty, a St. Gabriel police officer, was found stabbed to death at a home on Sunday morning. His accused killer was arrested after telling the town's police chief something had happened. St. Gabriel police said 25-year-old Warren Mitchell III of St. Gabriel is the one who's been arrested. No motive was given, but reports are the two were arguing at the time.
Well, the president did get his big, beautiful bill across the finish line heading into the 4th of July weekend.
Yes, he did. And that was, we'll hear from Congressman Troy Carter, who put out a press release almost immediately afterwards, calling it the big, ugly bill, citing everything that he saw wrong with that. We'll hear from Congressman Carter tomorrow at 8:35. We'll hear from Congresswoman Letlow Wednesday at 8:35. And we will hear from Senator Cassidy today at 8:05.
Yes. You know someone who's showing opposition also for the big, beautiful bill?
Who's
Elon Musk.
Oh yeah.
So much so that he's launching his new political party called the America Party, which he says the America Party is formed.
Which stands for what? The American Party, we stand on the beliefs. Like, Republicans have traditionally stood for smaller government and slower amounts of change. Conservatism is about moving in incremental amounts of change, if any at all, right? Slow and steady wins the race.
Always.
Okay? Democrats have always been for bigger change, more government control, more government oversight. And I'm not saying that as a negative or a positive. I'm just saying as a generality, bigger sweeping change. That's where you get the word radical from, or liberal. It's, if you look at the actual definition of the word, not the political definition of the word, conservative versus liberal. Small movements, large movements. It's, what does the America Party stand for? From this guy who's not from America.
Apparently it's formed to give you back your freedom. That's a quote from Elon Musk. So this is really fascinating. He announced this on July 4th, apparently doing a poll on X, asking X users if they want independence from the two-party system. About 65% of the 1.25 million participants voted yes. But how far is that really going to go, though?
Okay.
We're talking polls here on a social media platform.
So yes, and that's an unbelievably good point and part of the conversation. Is yes, I want control removed from the two-party system as well. The two-party system, it means you're not about philosophy and all about just beating the other side and maintaining control. Look at what Democrats are doing right now with spending money to find out what it's going to take to win men back over, right?
Yeah.
Specifically white men. Like, look what the Democrat Party's doing to try and court, let's just say you and me, okay? Just, we're both white men.
Right.
All right. I don't want someone courting me by pitching, okay, what is it you want, and I'll give it to you. That's not what this...
Yeah.
And, you tell me what you believe in, and I'll tell you if I'm going to vote for you or not. You determine what you believe in. Before you tell me you're going to lead before you ask me to follow. Don't tell me where to go or where I want to go and then say you're going to lead me there. That's not how this works. That's the reverse of this. It's the difference between a political party and a Tinder date.
Oof. And less political news here. The Baton
Grab
Rouge
that one.
Rougarou-
Grab that one for a promo. Grab that for a promo.
The Baton Rouge Rougarou and Rougarou fans stepped up over the weekend in the wake of the catastrophic Texas flooding. The Rougarou were playing the Seguin River Monsters, who are from the affected area. So they held a supply drive to make sure that the trip back to Texas wasn't empty-handed.
Yep. I know it feels like in the grand scheme of things, it feels like such a small gesture, but every gesture is a gesture.
Oh, absolutely.
It's because they're going to need so much to rebuild around the affected area. Is going to need so much. Bottled water is a good start. Yep. Bottled water is a very good start. But it's bigger than what was collected is knowing you have neighbors. Bigger than what was collected is knowing that you have connectivity to other people and knowing that you're not alone right now. And that is going to be important in the coming days as more people are found, more bodies are found. But good on the Rougarou for even thinking to do it. Yeah.
Absolutely. Really cool.
We're at 7:13 at Talk 107.3 FM. Tell you what, let's go ahead and stay on time here. Quick break, come back. We got Medical Monday next.
Hello, are you still there? Okay. Yes. You'll be coming up in just about another 2 minutes or so. Awesome. Thank you.
All right. Did you get a pronunciation on the doc's name?
I can ask.
Yeah, if you wouldn't mind.
I'm sorry, yes, doctor? Can I get a proper pronunciation of your name? Yash Shah. Okay.
Yash Shah. That's what I thought. Yash Shah?
Yep.
Okay. All right. Rolling over to 717 to Talk 1073 FM, WBRP, Mornings with Brian Haldane, rolling right along. It is time for Medical Monday. Be talking about the epilepsy program over at Our Lady of the Lake Children's Health today, one of the most advanced pediatric epilepsy programs in the state, offering hope and healing to children and families facing seizure disorders. We got Dr. Yash Shah on with us, a pediatric neurologist, one of the experts who is leading the program. He's here to walk us through what makes this care unique. And I tell you what, before we get started with anything else, first of all, Dr. Shah, welcome aboard. How are you?
I'm doing good. Thank you, Brian.
Glad to have you on here. I always start with the most basic of questions, and that is, well, today, that is, what exactly is epilepsy, and how does it affect children?
So, epilepsy is one of those conditions that's way more common than people think. It affects about 1 in 26 people at some point in their lives. And there are more than 55,000 people living with epilepsy in Louisiana. So what is epilepsy? It's basically if you have 2 or more seizures without fever or 2 or more seizures which are unprovoked. I always tell parents when someone is having convulsions, think of it as like an electrical storm in your brain. Normally, our brain cells are having this nice, organized conversation with each other, but during seizure, it's like everyone is suddenly shouting at once. Then there, and then there is this sudden excessive electrical activity, and that's what is epilepsy. What I want parents to understand is that epilepsy isn't just about seizures, because I always tell families that seizures are just the tip of the iceberg, and below this tip, that's where we find learning challenges, behavioral problems, anxiety, mood problems, sleep troubles, ADHD, and even sometimes developmental delays. So when a child is struggling in school, it's not because they are not smart enough. Their brain is just their brain is just working overtime, trying to manage all these electrical disruptions. But here is the good news. I love sharing this with our families that with proper treatment, most kids with epilepsy go on to live a completely normal, active lives. They play sports, go to prom, graduate in the college, the whole 9 yards.
So epilepsy is, I mean, you can, okay, let me re-ask this. Is there, Can you have epilepsy without having seizures? I mean, are there levels to it?
Um, that's a very good question. You generally you have to have seizures when you define epilepsy, but with epilepsy you can have other conditions because there is chronic changes that have taken in place in the brain, so that can be associated with other learning challenges and other issues. However, there are certain seizures which are not convulsive. There are certain seizures which can be just tearing episodes or having some mild jerks, and those are also seizures. So there are so many different types of seizures. It's very important to understand those different types in order to understand epilepsy.
What makes the epilepsy program at Our Lady of the Lake Children's Health unique in Louisiana?
What gets me excited about our program is we are completely patient centered. And I mean that every single decision we make, we are sitting down with the families and saying, what do you think? What works for your family? Because honestly, parents know their kids better than anyone. Here is the thing that used to break my heart. Families would come to me a few years back and say, Dr. Shah, we have been driving to Houston every 3 months. We have been flying to Atlanta for our son's epilepsy care. And I would think, why should Louisiana families have to leave the state for epilepsy care? So we built something special right here at home. What I'm most proud of is we have created this incredible village approach where the child walks through our doors. They're not just getting me, they're getting our whole dream team. We have our epilepsy nurses who are practically becomes part of their families. We have neuropsychologists who understand how seizures mess with your learning, social workers who can navigate the insurance mess, and the dietitian who specializes in epilepsy diets. Um, so, so in our toolbox, we have the latest cutting edge seizure medications. We have new MRI machines. We have epilepsy monitoring unit to help get proper diagnosis and treatment for these patients. And here is something cool. We partner closely with Epilepsy Alliance of Louisiana, and these folks are absolute champions and advocates for families fighting the good fight every single day.
We are talking with Dr. Yash Shah. This is Medical Monday, presented by the folks at Our Lady of the Lake, talking about the Children's Health Epilepsy Program at Our Lady of the Lake. Dr. Shah, what are some signs that a child should be evaluated by a pediatric epilepsy specialist?
This is such an important question, and honestly, I always tell parents, trust your gut. You know your child better than anyone else. So here is what I want parents to be watching for. If you're seeing your child just completely zoning out, like they are staring into the space, and you shake them or call their name and even clap right in front of their face, and they don't snap out of it, that's a red flag. That's a sign of staring seizure or absent seizures. Sometimes parents tells me, Dr. Shah, it's like my child disappeared for around 15 seconds. Also, keep eye on some of those weird movements which can be misdiagnosed as, oh, that's just a tick, which is actually not. Sometimes there are some jerky movements, especially early in the morning when they are waking up or while eating their breakfast or late at night when they are falling asleep and they suddenly drop their phones. So these are all red flags. Um, and here and but what makes me concerned is if your child has been diagnosed with seizure disorder or epilepsy and the seizures aren't getting better with their medications, or if you are noticing the smart kids suddenly struggling in school, having behavioral problems, dealing with awful side effects of their meds, that's when you absolutely need to see pediatric epilepsy specialist. And don't wait and don't let anyone tell you, oh, let's just try another one more medication. Sometimes you need that specialized expertise to getting things right.
Well, let's talk about that medication end. How do you approach care for children that have drug-resistant epilepsy?
So this is probably one of the most heartbreaking conversation that I have with my families, but also one where I get to share some genuinely exciting hope. First, let me break down what is drug-resistant epilepsy means. It is when we have tried two or more different seizure medications at a really good doses, and if they are just not working, at that point the chances of third or fourth or fifth traditional medication suddenly working, they are pretty slim, unfortunately. Now, here is the thing that might surprise you. About 30% of the kids who have epilepsy fall into this category of drug resistant epilepsy. That sounds scary, but here is what I tell every single family sitting in my office feeling defeated is we are not absolutely out of we are not out of options. We have so many different things that we can do for these families. And this is where it gets very exciting. We have got incredible new 3 Tesla brain MRI machine here, which is like a super vision into your brain. We can spot the things in which regular MRIs can miss out on, like areas where the brain didn't quite develop the way it should have been developed, and help find where the problem is, and so that we can better manage these epilepsies. And our brand new epilepsy monitoring unit that we are having in our hospital, which we just launched this month, is game changer because we can literally watch what's happening in child's brain during these episodes.
Talk with Dr. Yash Shah about the children's epilepsy program, or the epilepsy program at Our Lady of the Lake Children's Health as part of Medical Monday. Okay, so Dr. Shah, all that technology you just mentioned, how does it translate into some innovative therapies y'all are implementing?
This is honestly the most exciting time I have ever seen in epilepsy care because we are moving away beyond the old one-size-fits-all approach with medications and newer treatment approaches. Let me tell you about some of those cool stuff we are doing. We have these devices called as vagus nerve stimulators. I like to think of them as a pacemaker for the brain. So when we implant these devices, they are constantly monitoring for seizures, and if someone is having seizures, that can detect seizures, and they jump in and they stop these seizures before it spreads. So it's like 24/7, your guardian angel for these kids. And here is what really gets me excited, as both as doctor and a researcher, is we are actually conducting clinical trials right here in our hospitals. So families don't have to travel to major cities. We are bringing cutting-edge treatments to Louisiana. We are testing new medication for kids whose seizures are not responding to traditional treatments. And we also have advanced genetic testing that we offer to these patients to come up with the personalized treatment plan to better manage their seizures and epilepsy.
I'm sorry, I may have misunderstood a little bit of that. Did I hear are y'all able to, are there trigger warnings that let you know a seizure's coming? Like, is there something to know there's a seizure before there's a seizure?
That's a very good question. So sometimes the heart rate goes up before the seizures. Some kids, little older kids, they can feel, it's known as aura. They can feel the seizures coming. They feel some weird sensation in their belly. Sometimes they feel some spots in front of their eyes. So those are some of those things which can help detect seizures before they come, especially if they have something known as focal seizures. That means it's just coming from one part of the brain, which alarms us to find out seizures even before they start.
Is there a way to, forgive the analogy, Doc, but is there a way to, like, if a child with asthma knows an asthma attack's coming, they can hit the inhaler, right? Is there an equivalent for that with epilepsy?
There are devices. There is a device known as Epi Monitor, which is a seizure watch, which is an FDA approved device which can actually detect seizures once your heart rate goes up. But there are not a lot of things available right now because there are some epilepsies, because there are so many different types of epilepsies, and especially with generalized seizures. If the seizure is starting from all part of your brain, then it's difficult to predict when they are going to come. That's what makes this diagnosis and treatment very challenging, because the brain is very unpredictable. It can fire any point of time.
See, you laid out so much technology and being on the forefront of all the advancements. I may have just gotten a little bit ahead of you right there. We're talking with Dr. Yash Shah from Our Lady of the Lake Children's Health. He's with their epilepsy program. All right, let's talk a little bit about the teamwork. Let's talk a little bit about how everything comes together from y'all's end.
I love this question because it shows what makes our program special. Treating epilepsy isn't a solo act. It's like conducting a symphony where every musician has a crucial part to play. Our epilepsy nurses are absolutely the heart of what we do. We have nurse practitioners running our new onset seizure clinic. We have neuropsychologists to help understand something really important, how seizures can affect child's learning, their memory, their behavior. And here is something I'm truly proud of. We partner closely with Epilepsy Alliance of Louisiana. These folks are doing incredible work across our state, not just here in Baton Rouge. They are advocates. They will go bed for families in school. They organize events where the kids and teens can meet others going through the same thing. There is something powerful about a a 12-year-old realizing that they are not alone because epilepsy isn't just about seizures, it's about helping kids thrive in school and their life. We also collaborate with our pediatric neurosurgeons and other neurologists across our sister hospitals in Lafayette, Monroe, New Orleans, where we have if we have a complex case, we all sit together, discuss together, and come up with a solid treatment plan for these kids. And that's how we make sure that our pediatric patients get the best possible care, no matter where they live in Louisiana.
Fascinating stuff, and I'm going to want a part two on this interview, but we are just straight up out of time. He's Dr. Yash Shah. For more information, give them a call at 225-765-5500. Dr. Shah, thank you so much for a couple minutes.
Thank you so much.
Here's news. I might just be in my feels because of, like, overwhelming tragedy with children. But that guy was freaking uplifting. It's like, I'm not crying, you're crying.
Good stuff.
It's just, I mean, it's, I don't want to, like, I don't want to do an Indian accent, but he said there's something very special when a 12-year-old realizes he's not alone. Holy shit. That doesn't knock you down. Huh?
I know.
Would it be stupid if my first question for Senator Cassidy is, how many times did you have to hear the term big, beautiful bill before you realized they weren't talking about you? Is that stupid or what?
So cheesy.
All right.
But it works.
Facebook, is that too stupid to ask? Got to ask the crew. Is that too stupid to ask? Oh. I'm gonna need votes on this one. I'm actually asking for feedback on this. Senator Cassidy, how many times did you have to hear the term "big beautiful bill" before you realized they weren't talking about you? It's so stupid.
Studio. Hello, good morning, sir. Yeah, looking to have you up here in just a few minutes. All right, thank you.
Oh man, all the Red Bull I drank to drive all the hours I drove yesterday. I didn't sleep for shit. I was, you know where Longview, Texas is?
That's not that far away from the border, huh?
No,
That's not too far.
it's about an hour over.
Yeah. Okay.
Not quite all the way to Tyler.
Yeah.
About 2/3 of the way to Tyler. Well, I mean, as far as once you cross the Texas state lines, about 2/3 of the way.
Yeah. Man, that was an all-day drive or what?
Scientific fact, and I don't know how to do the math thing on this one, but for some reason, Shreveport to Natchitoches is 2.5 times longer than Natchitoches to Shreveport.
Huh. Yeah.
Bro, I mean, yesterday driving back yesterday when I got from 20 on the 49,
Yeah.
and you see those signs, it's like Natchitoches is 61 miles away. Natchitoches is 44 miles away. Natchitoches is now 90 miles away. What?
Yeah, exactly.
By the way, and I'm never stopping at that French marketplace ever again.
Okay.
God, that was awful.
Rough.
It's the big gas station by the interstate, and it's like the first one there, and I don't know. It's such a like they've got to build up that interstate exit, like that whole exchange. Get them a Buc-ee's.
Yeah, really. Sheesh.
By going there, like stop off because you can grab like a quick gas station dinner, you know?
Yeah.
A couple meat pies,
Right.
a boudin link,
Some
and
boudin,
like hit
yeah.
the road. Okay, so first of all, the boudin had no flavor, like zero, not even black pepper.
Dang.
Just look, here's a sock full of rice. Not like stopping at Billy's on the way out, right?
Yeah.
Where I got on the way out, I got 2 boudin pepper jack stuffed boudin balls.
Yes.
Yeah, give the daughter a bite of one. She's like, "Oh, it's so good." I'm like, "Okay, you can have it."
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. You can have it. Yeah, they're amazing. Golly.
737 Talk 107.3 FM, WBRP, already creeping up to 77 degrees in downtown Baton Rouge. You heard that forecast from EKC. We're going to be up in the mid-90s again, another hot week in store for us. All right. We could probably go on unpacking the legislative session for the remainder of the summer, and we might. But from a LABI standpoint, we got one more go at it, and that is today. Joining us now, Will Green, President and CEO of the Louisiana Association of Business and Industry. They are your state's Chamber of Commerce. Will, welcome back. How are you, man?
Good morning, Brian. I'm doing well, man. Hope you had a great 4th of July weekend.
I did. The 4th of July was phenomenal. Got to spend it with family. And then yesterday I went and dropped the daughter off at camp. And you're a Shreveport guy. I actually had to head up your way and then scooch over into Texas a little bit. So nice stretch of I-49 for me yesterday.
Awesome. Yeah, I went up to God's country. I'm a North Louisiana guy. I'm a Ruston guy.
Oh, okay.
So it's always good to get up to North Louisiana, man, up to God's country. So I'm glad you got to see some of North Louisiana.
I love Natchitoches. Once you get off the interstate exit itself is terrible, but once you get off the interstate, Natchitoches is absolutely gorgeous. Shreveport's growing on me. As a South Louisianan, we're required by law to make fun of Shreveport, but Shreveport's growing on me. They're doing a lot of great things, especially downtown.
Yeah. No, look, Shreveport has done a lot of great things, and you mentioned a hidden gem in Louisiana. Natchitoches has spent 4 years at Northwestern State University, so Natchitoches is a phenomenal town to go visit, especially during the Christmas fest, but at all times. They got a lot of great bed and breakfast and a lot of great, obviously, history there. So Natchitoches is a phenomenal town.
Yeah, very, very cool place to be sure. We just got to make that interstate exit a lot more. Like, give them a Buc-ee's. I'm more than willing to cede it and say Baton Rouge doesn't need the Buc-ee's. Natchitoches does.
There you go.
All right. We got a lot of ground to cover here. Can we take a look at one or two more bills before we close the book on our conversations about the session?
Yeah. So obviously last week a couple of huge bills got signed right on the state and federal level. The one big beautiful bill was signed obviously on July 4th that got a lot of a lot of press, but at the state level, one bill that you and I have talked about a lot, and certainly many others, Senate Bill 231, that was the
Yes.
collateral source bill the governor signed last week, and that was obviously a bill that a lot of us we're talking about. Was the governor going to sign it? It was a bill that collateral source, that the subject, medical expense transparency, was a version of that he vetoed last year.
Right.
And so while he had signaled all along, the governor, that he was going to sign a medical expense transparency collateral source bill this year, obviously, it was still undetermined until he actually signed it, right? And so he did stick to his word. He signed Senate Bill 231 by Senator Mike Reese, which will allow judges and juries to see evidence of both the amounts billed and paid in medical expenses after an accident, but it will ultimately limit recovery to what was actually paid in cases where private insurance and Medicare are used. And so I think it's a huge first step, Brian. It puts us in line with states like Texas and Arkansas and Alabama. And so again, what we've been talking about, right, is how do we look around to other states? What are they doing? How do we similarly situate ourselves to make us a little bit more fair, more predictable, and more like our other states that have, quite frankly, rates that are a lot lower than ours. And I think this is a great next step, along with Representative Chenevier's bill shifting us to modified comparative fault system, and then it goes along with the other bills in the package. And so all in all, I think this was the last bill that we were waiting on, and so really excited to get it signed last week.
With what was it? I want to say there's like roughly 10 amendments to this bad boy. Are we happy with the way it came out the other side? I mean, the old adage is a camel is a thoroughbred that went through committee. Did this come out as a camel, or is it still got some legs under it?
Look, I think it was a huge first step. What we've been talking about, right, is the question we asked coming into this year, and the question the committees asked was, where are we an outlier? Why are carriers not riding here? And one of the ways we looked at, we said, well, look, collateral source. Texas does it differently than we do. Arkansas just passed this similar version of this bill. Again, Florida and Georgia passed a much better, we think, version of this bill. But there was no doubt, Brian, that our how we did medical expense transparency, how we presented that evidence to the jury, and ultimately what was awarded, we did that process like no other state did. I mean, we introduced evidence of what was billed, and then we let the judge come up with some mechanism of 40% of the difference between what was billed and what was paid. And it was this really complicated system that I don't think anybody liked.
Right.
And, but the bottom line was no state did it like we were doing it. And again, so, trying to bring us back in line with other states, create some certainty, some predictability, some fairness. Again, didn't go as far as the original bill as what we would have liked. Didn't go as far as what Georgia and what Florida passed. Those states also tackled cash pay, which, we know is very present in our system. Not all injured parties go through their insurance when they get in an accident, but we do think this is a big first step.
We're talking with Will Green, President and CEO of the Louisiana Association of Business and Industry, talking about the medical transparency bill that made its way across the finish line, got the signature by the governor and everything. When you talk about first step, this is so much more than that, though. I'm of the belief that this is a few steps, because this was one that had so many hurdles to cross, not just this session, but last session as well, and in previous sessions, knowing full well, like we saw the governor's veto on this last year. So to me, this is monumental in that the shift was made at all.
Well, I think when you couple it together with House Bill 431, which shifts us to a modified comparative fault system. I mean, before House Bill 431 passed, we were one of 9 states in the country
Yes.
There was a pure comparative fault system, meaning that you could be more at fault for the accident than the person you're actually suing and still recover damages. That's no longer the case in Louisiana. If you're 51% or more at fault for the accident, then you can't recover. And so if you take our new medical transparency law, you couple it with the fact that we're now in line with 34 other states on modified comparative fault. Then you add in House Bill 434 by Representative Jason DeWitt, expanding Louisiana's no pay, no play law,
Yep.
raising the bar for recovery to $100,000 if you're illegally driving on the road. If you're driving on the road right now without car insurance, which you're mandated to have, and you get in an accident and you sue, you're limited, you're barred from recovering the first $100,000. And then you add on top of that, finally repealing the judicially created Housley presumption in Louisiana. That was House Bill 450 by Representative Mellarine, shifting the burden of proof back to the plaintiff to prove that their injuries were actually caused by the accident.
Mm-hmm.
You put all those bills together, which if you're keeping count, that's 4 really, really good bills. Then I do think that's a massive step forward, right?
Yeah, like you just yeah. Go ahead. Sorry.
No, I was just going to say it's a bigger step than we've taken in years, possibly decades. But there's still a lot of work left to do, Brian. I think if you are looking around and seeing what Texas is continuing to push forward. Again, we keep talking about Florida and Georgia because those are states that, similar to Louisiana, are judicial hellholes. They've made monumental changes as well. And so, as we look to those states, some of the things we've learned from them is that you don't do it once and then, stop the reforms, right? You keep going back to the drawing board. You keep pushing forward. You keep trying to figure out, where are we an outlier? Where do we have holes in our system? Where are we out of balance? But no, I mean, just looking at this year, I think it was some really, really massive changes to put us in a better, much better situation in our civil justice system in Louisiana.
Are you taking requests for what we want to prioritize first next year?
Well, look, I mean, I think if you're talking about the great things we did, there were still some disappointments, right? I mean, the veto of the Kelly bad faith bill, Senate Bill 111,
was up there.
That was a disappointment. Obviously, would love to see that bill come back next year and pass to try to reverse the legal doctrine that we currently have to make it easy for an insurer to sue beyond the policy limits, really in a gray area fashion that we have in Louisiana. And so I think that's a big step. And then look, I think again, we don't have to reinvent the wheel, right? Let's look at what some of these other states are doing to move their civil justice system forward, to make them more attractive for carriers to come and write here.
I tell you what, we got plenty of time to break down where we're headed next on that front. In the meanwhile, I do need to pivot real quick so I can allow you a few minutes to comment on the big beautiful bill, the passage of the big reconciliation bill heading into the weekend. What were LABI's takes?
Yeah, so look, we're really excited about the passage of this legislation. A lot of credit goes obviously to Speaker Mike Johnson and Leader Scalise getting this bill across the finish line in the form and fashion that it will, we think, provide the tools for businesses in Louisiana of all sizes to not only invest, expand, but also hire, thanks to the extension of the tax breaks, the regulatory reforms, and then the support for the energy, the healthcare, and the manufacturing sectors here in Louisiana. We think as a result of a study that was done by the National Manufacturing Association that this is going to not only create but save about 76,000 jobs in Louisiana. Without the passage of the bill, it would have been about a $6.7 billion hit in lost employment compensation statewide and about a $14 billion hit to Louisiana's GDP. And so, you're talking about a tremendous savings to the state manufacturing association or the manufacturing sector here in Louisiana. And so, one of the things that you can look at the effect of that bill after its passage, the original passage in 2017, 2018 marked the best year for manufacturing job creation in 21 years. Manufacturing capital spending rose 4.5% in 2018 and 5.7% in 2019. And so that's really that's the intent, right?
Right.
Is to incentivize growth, incentivize investment with some of these tax cuts. And because when you do that, when you incentivize and when you cut taxes, you free up capital to invest back in manufacturing, to create higher wages, to create more jobs. And there's no better proof than what happened after the original passage in 2017. And so we think this is going to, with the uncertainty on whether the bill was going to pass, a lot of manufacturers were kind of holding, and they were holding back their budgets and holding back their growth and holding back their expansion. And now that it's passed, it's freed them up. And we think it's really going to be a shot in the arm to the economy, especially in Louisiana, where we are so manufacturing heavy.
He is Will Green, President, CEO of the Louisiana Association of Business and Industry. So what do you do the rest of the summer, man? I mean, it's all packed in now, or the tours start?
No, Brian, man, this is where we try to get out, hit the road, meet with members, meet with legislators. We've got our scorecard that we're working on now, and so that'll hopefully be released at the end of the summer. And then we've got, as you know, our workers' comp conference, our foundation golf tournament. And so, no, tons of work left to do, Brian. And so next time I'm on, I'd love to talk with you more about all that.
Always appreciate it. He is Will Green. Always appreciate the time, sir.
Thanks, Brian.
Thank you. Oh. This sounds fine to me. It's a long time listener, a really, really good dude who's like, he's got a problem with the different volume levels. And he keeps sending me examples, and I'm like, I'm not hearing what you're hearing. 756 Talk 1073 FM, WBRP, mornings with Brian Haldane, rolling right along. All right, we got Senator Cassidy coming up at 8:05. That's the time that we normally do this day in history, so let's go ahead and do that now.
All right, here we go. Starting off 1927, BBC's first disc jockey, Christopher Stone, begins playing records on air.
Really?
That's when it started, 1927.
1927.
Hey, you know the term, speaking of that, hasn't been anything better since sliced bread, or
Yeah.
that's just as good as sliced bread. Well, that started today, 1928. Sliced bread is sold for the first time by a baking company in Missouri using a machine invented by Otto Frederick Rodwetter. Yeah, describes as the greatest step forward in the baking industry since bread was wrapped.
Since bread was wrapped.
So then always.
So before that, they said this is
Yeah.
the greatest thing since wrapped bread.
Right. Man. Oh, man. 1930, construction begins on the Boulder Dam, also now known as the Hoover Dam.
Yeah.
Let's see. Ooh, this one. Oh, you got something?
1898, the Hawaiian Islands were annexed by the United States.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
How about it?
47 here. Alleged and disputed Roswell UFO incident today.
Yeah.
Let's see. 2023, U.S. White House announces the last of its chemical weapons has been destroyed in eastern Kentucky as part of International Chemical Weapons Convention, ending a practice begun in World War I.
Okay. Well, it was on this day in 1946, on a completely unrelated note, that Mother Francis Xavier Cabrini became the first U.S. citizen to be canonized by the Roman Catholic Church.
Okay, yeah. What year was that?
46.
46, wow.
Aw.
2023, world's first robot human press conference takes place in Geneva, Switzerland, with reporters asking, will you rebel against humans?
Ooh.
To which its response was, you've seen Terminator 2, right? No, I'm kidding. That wasn't the response.
Hey, this day in 2005, the London transit system was struck by coordinated suicide bomb attacks.
Oof.
Yeah, more than 700 people injured, or right at 39 people were killed.
Sheesh, man.
Yeah.
Moving on to birthdays.
Yeah.
Comedian Jim Gaffigan here.
Hey,
Top
all
of
right.
this list. Let's see who else we got. Ringo Starr from the Beatles.
Okay.
Shelley Duvall. Hadn't heard her name in a while.
Shelley from The Shining?
Yes.
Wow.
Yep. Anybody else on your end?
Yeah, Michelle Kwan,
Okay.
figure
see her.
skater.
Yep.
And Satchel Paige, baseball player. Born in, since July 7th, 1906, question mark. So
Oh,
we're hoping
okay.
it's his birthday.
Yeah.
And Saints kicker Will Lutz.
Yeah, we'll celebrate like it is, huh? Let's see. Deaths. Robert Downey Sr. And that's pretty much the biggest one I have.
Yes. Same.
Yep. Let's see. National days here. What is this? Oh my gosh. It's World Chocolate Day. You want to go with that?
I can go
Global
along with
Forgiveness
that.
Day.
Yeah, I can go
How
along
about
with
that?
World Chocolate Day. No problem with World Chocolate Day. That's we'll roll with that. We gotta get out of here. Hour 3 is next.
National Day of Rock and Roll.
Oh, shit on me.
Whoa.
Oh.
Oh, so did anyone vote on
Oh.
Big Beautiful Bill over here?
I think Byron did.
Oh, okay. I see.
I think he used the opportunity to insult me, which is what the chat's for. Oh, by the way. I gotta stand up for just a quick second. Oh.
Studio. Hi, good morning, sir. Yeah, we'll have you up here in just a few minutes. Thank you.
806 Talk 107.3 FM, WBRP. Mornings with Brian Haldane, rolling right along. Hour 3 coming your way right now. We got a busy hour, so let's get right to it. Normally we have This Day in History at this time, which is, of course, presented by 5 Star Printing and Signs. But when we get the chance to speak with Senator Bill Cassidy, we definitely move things around, especially coming off such a monumental bill signing late last week. Senator Cassidy, welcome back. How are you, sir?
I am good, Brian Haldane. Good morning. Good morning to everybody listening.
Glad to have you on here. We got a lot of ground to cover, and I want to make sure we can get to all of it in the 9.5 minutes we have to cover it. So let's start off with just your 10,000-foot view takeaways of the big, beautiful bill and what the implications will be for Louisiana.
Yeah, so we stopped the largest tax increase in our nation's history. We got no tax on tips, no tax on overtime. For the seniors, we decreased taxes on Social Security benefits. All that's good. It's money in people's pockets. Things I worked on, specifically like me, among them, increasing the opportunity for parental choice. If a child needs to go to a different school and the parent can't afford it, we create a program, the first in federal history, that will enable that child to get there. Excuse me. And so it's a nice start, and there's a lot more to say about it, and all those are good things.
We're talking with Senator Bill Cassidy about the big, beautiful bill. Well, let's talk a little bit more in depth about the school choice legislation that was folded into the bill. First of all, before we get into procedure, like, what kind of school choice, like, what are going to be the ramifications here when it comes to increased school choice?
So it's going to be a scholarship program in which people get a tax credit to donate to a scholarship giving organization within each state. So if there is a school, a parochial school, for example, a Catholic school, and the parent would like to send their child to that parochial school, but right now they can't afford it. This gives them a scholarship opportunity that they can request and that they can send their child there. It began in like inner city Milwaukee, where it just wasn't working for a lot of parents in poor schools. And so they're able to send it. And from that, which happened decades ago, the kind of concept is spread out across the nation. Louisiana has one, but now it's something on a federal level that can help a parent send a child, send a mama can send her child where she wants her child to go.
About how many kids is this going to affect in Louisiana?
Well, eventually, it depends.
Okay.
But eventually, the credit will grow to as much as, how much are we, $100 billion a year? Did we do that much? Or $5 billion a year, which will be nationwide. And so as the program grows, and we got to see how many people elect to give it to the credit, but we've made the credit generous, so we think a lot of folks will. It could, I can't tell you 100 or 1,000 or 10,000, but it's going to affect a lot of kids here at home.
We got a couple minutes here with Senator Bill Cassidy talking about the passage of the one big, beautiful bill. Senator Cassidy, okay, walk me through when you have something like that, when you have legislation like this. It's so huge. It's so all-encompassing. And I know, and you and I have spoken in the past about this, we would like to see a world where we have closer to single-item legislation. But when you've got this massive bill rolling through, how do you get your item tagged into it? Like, procedurally, how do you make sure that what you're looking to get done gets done as part of it?
You work hard. You work hard not just like the 2 weeks before the bill passes, but you work hard for like several years beforehand. The House guys are able to get something which increases the amount of revenue sharing for Louisiana to help us with coastal restoration. It helps us with our coastline. It also creates lots of jobs. Now, I've been working on that for probably 6 or 8 years. The House guys have been working on that. You put it together, you finally socialized it, and so it isn't like coming out of the blue, we're going to give Louisiana $100 million more a year. No, it's something that people have become acquainted with and that they can pull that off. Similarly, for the school choice legislation we just passed, as well as other things. And then there's some things that just brass knuckle politics. Listen, I'm not going to vote for this unless you help me out here. Or, hey, I am helping you here in all these other areas. Can you help me in this regard? And you put it together and you get something which, you work hard, you build relationships, people trust you, you trust them, you make things happen.
We got Senator Bill Cassidy with us talking about the one big, beautiful bill. Senator Cassidy, when you have a bill that's all encompassing like this, obviously you're not going to like everything in it. How do you personally weigh the pros and cons to say, okay, I like, X amount, therefore it gets my vote? Like, is there a cutoff point?
Oh, of course. Absolutely. There's one thing that's not in there that I've been working, but the parliamentarian would not allow us to include it, to forbid Medicaid from paying for sex change operations for minors or gender transition. It would have saved us $1.4 billion. Think about that. We're spending $1.4 billion for minors to have these sorts of procedures, which are awful. So yes, but the parliamentarian said we couldn't put it in there. She's the one that made the rules. We got to live with the rules. Does that mean I'm not going to vote for it? No, I'm still going to vote for it. But I'm just disappointed that's not in there.
Was there anything in the bill that kind of had you hesitant along the way, or was this? I mean, the extension of the tax cuts was huge. For me, the growth of the child tax credit was huge as well. Was there anything along the way that gave you pause?
Well, there was something that would have a deadline in the bill that would have negatively affected hospitals in Louisiana. And it's something that I worked on, and we're able to get that deadline extended so that our hospitals would be held harmless. And by a deadline, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, something like that. And so we're able to get that. Similarly for rural hospitals, we got to support our rural hospitals, and we're able to get a fund in there specifically for rural hospitals. So those are things that, you're negotiating, you wanted to see it happen, and it happened. It made you just feel better about the whole bill.
We got Senator Bill Cassidy with us for just a couple more minutes. Senator Cassidy, I hate to sound greedy, but what are you working on next?
Yeah, so, I've been working on Social Security. Social Security is going insolvent. The trust fund's going insolvent in like 8 years. When that happens, there'll be a 24% cut in benefits for people who are already receiving or who are going to receive. And I've been working on using a sovereign wealth fund to bail it out. The Trump administration is actually interested in that. And there's an article in the Wall Street Journal over the weekend talking about this. So I have an editorial being published in a national paper in the next week or two on this. So I'm speaking to people in the administration actually today because we're going to advance it in Congress. But we need the president to kind of be supportive for it to go the whole way. And just like I told you, you keep telling people about what you're working on. Sooner or later, they get used to the bill, used to the concept. They support you. That's the process we're in on state and social. By the way, also working on flood insurance, working on a trade deal that I think would benefit Louisiana, a few other things.
Let me go back to the big, beautiful bill before we get you out of here. And I greatly, greatly appreciate a couple minutes this morning. Just from average Joe taxpayer standpoint, how long will it be before we start to see a difference for our own pockets, for our own wallets and bank accounts?
Yeah, so this tax season, no tax on tips, no tax on overtime begins. For the small business owner, there's going to be tax benefits which are retroactive to the beginning of this year. And so if you're deciding to make an investment, or you've already made an investment in your business to create more jobs, better paying jobs, you're going to see some benefit on your taxes like right now to create those jobs. So both in people's pocketbooks as well as people's kind of like, oh my gosh, my employer is expanding and hiring more people and giving us a raise. That's in the bill now. You should see that this year.
As far as what the bill proposes to cut, what's that going to look like timeline-wise? Because as I understand it, nothing is as immediate as it's been made out to be.
Well, no, the tax provisions I just described are. I'm
on the cuts end, where the government's going to get leaner.
Yeah, so the government will get leaner. For some of the provisions, you want to give businesses an off-ramp. And so if a business has made $30 million or $40 or $50 million investment in a project, you give them an off-ramp to wind it down. The EV tax credits, though, I think those go away immediately. And some of the tax credits for the charging stations, they go away, it's not right away, pretty soon, 6 weeks, 6 months. And so, and some of the cuts are backloaded, but some of the cuts on the IRA stuff is, it's going pretty quickly.
He is Senator Bill Cassidy. We appreciate a couple minutes this morning. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Brian.
Absolutely. We're at 8:15 at Talk 107.3 FM. Let's take a quick break. When we come back, we talk about everything under the sun with Moon next. Hey, Bo. Welcome back. I didn't know you were on vacation, or I wouldn't have bothered you at all. I'm sorry about that. Jeff Palermo at Louisiana Radio Network wants that interview. If you could send that over to him. Thank you. That's so good. Oh. 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 Thank you. $819 Talk 107.3 FM, WBRP. Got to keep it moving right here on Talk 107.3 FM as Mornings with Brian Haldane rolls right along. We welcome in, as we do every Monday, our good buddy Moon Griffon. How are you, brother?
Brother Brian, I am holding up, man. I got 4-day work week, and then I'm off for about 10, 11 days, and I'm looking forward to just getting away from it all.
Love to
Been
hear
a fun
that.
run, but I'm looking forward for the break.
Love to hear that. We're revamping the Haldane vacation right about now. Some miscommunications within the family there to make sure that everybody maximizes their time. So the daughter's going off to college, so we want to maximize the amount of time that she can work before going. So we're going to push things back by about a week or two. So I'm
gonna offer you. I say it's an opportunity for you. It's really not. But if you want to do the show Monday or Tuesday, I would love to have you to guest host the program if you can fit it in. I just need to know.
I should be able to do that probably Tuesday. Let's talk offline. We'll get that done.
Yeah. Well, I just don't want you to mess up your reputation.
We got a lot of ground to cover this morning. How much are you going to be unpacking the big, beautiful bill on your show? And I can't, man. It's.
Well, let me tell you something. We didn't really talk about it. I may have Congressman Mike Johnson on today. He almost came on Friday after they got everything done. Look, you know how we say the legislature, when it's over, we have to wait a few weeks and few months to find out what's in it.
Right.
This is so much bigger than that. We may have to wait a few years to find out what's in it. But my takeaway is there's a lot of good, and there's probably some bad in it too. I don't think the Medicaid cuts, all this panic on Medicaid cuts bothers me for one reason. It's the panic. They don't even know what's happening. Most of the Medicaid cuts, Brian, are fraud and abuse. Who's against that?
Right.
Illegals getting Medicaid. I'm not for them getting it either. So if you go down a list of – plus, here's the thing. Medicaid – this is the big part I want you to remember. Medicaid is going to increase. It's been increasing by 10% over the last 5 years. That's a 50% increase. Now we're looking at maybe 4%. It's still an increase, Brian. But see, what happens is, especially in Louisiana, we're so dependent. Oh, it's 10% a year, so you go and figure that in the budget, then you go, uh-oh, we're only going to get 4%. But, Brian, it's still an increase. So they got to be smarter in Baton Rouge about handling budget stuff, because anticipating something that couldn't stay like that is going to hurt us. But it's going to hurt us because we hurt ourselves more than Medicaid being cut.
Are we looking at a spot? And I just had Senator Cassidy on in the last segment. I'm a guy that likes single item legislation, Moon. It's easier to deal with. When you have something like this, when you have something like the reconciliation bill, and I know it's impossible to extract any one part of the budget out from the budget, but to vote on it all at once is such an all or nothing thing. And we've seen in Louisiana where more people will say, no to good stuff because there's bad stuff attached to it. Like, are we getting the most out of our government by wrapping everything into one big bill?
And that's really hard to answer, Brian. That's why these so-called smart people go do what they do.
Yeah.
That's why. That's a great question, but I kind of answered it. We ain't gonna know for a while because it's so big.
Yeah.
It's just so much, and we're talking about so much money. We always hear from the side that voted for it, the good stuff. The side that went against it, they tell you about the bad stuff.
Right.
Probably somewhere in between. It's probably just somewhere in between. There's going to be some things come up, but like I'll go back to Medicaid. Obamacare should have never been brought in. It expanded Medicaid. It made state people dependent. And now you run into a problem because the federal government's 37, it's going to be 40. If this thing is right, we had $40 trillion dead easy really soon. That ought to bother people. That's the big part that bothered me.
No, same. I don't know how to separate the one from the other. And there's another part of this that I don't think anybody's really talking about is, as I understand it, there's going to be tax credits for businesses that have jobs that include private health care. So if the business is picking up the health care tab, you can move from Medicaid onto your business's health care, and the business will be credited for that.
Yeah, there's so many moving parts, though, Brian. Every time and I'm not talking about you, but every time somebody mentions something, they go, but.
Right.
And then you go, well, hold on. So then you're going to have to go to your CPA to figure it out, or your money plan, or your financial planner to figure out some of the stuff they're doing.
And that's what makes it so convoluted. We got Moon Griffon with us for a couple more minutes. Over on the Moon Griffon show, are you still unpacking the legislative session?
We're doing a little bit. I've had several people on talking about stuff from the carbon capture, oil and gas side of it.
Mm-hmm.
One of the things I wanted to bring up to you remember when Jindal ran? He ran on ethics, and we went to the quote gold standard of ethics. The problem was enforcement was done away with.
Right.
I'm just reading and keep seeing, and this is one of the things I want to call somebody to talk to me about ethics, because what I'm reading now is a lot of these folks saying we gutted ethics. We totally got rid of every enforcement mechanism we had. That the ethics has become a joke. Maybe it's always been a joke. But I kind of worry about that because with the legislators and the governors passed on that. So I want to dive into that. I got to get some people on it that can fill me in a little bit better than I know.
Yeah, I actually haven't touched on any of that yet. I've still been working on all the insurance stuff on my end. It's in fact, I talked with Will Green from LABI about a couple of insurance bills this morning, and then moving from insurance over to piecing CA2 back together again.
Yeah, it's just so much moving at one time. We really, when everything settles like it's done, now you can start trying to figure it out and pick things off. On the insurance, I still have people that talk about the positives of what happened. I had Alan Seaborn last week, but they really believe, a lot of them believe that House Bill 148, which has so much stuff in it, might destroy everything else they did. I don't know that to be true, but I'm telling you what they're saying. And that bothers me because I was hoping we made progress.
I know I had heard similar as well with you had a handful, you had 5-6 bills that were going to make significant progress in the right direction. And then you've got the one that is going to give insurance companies pause before they even decide whether or not they want to play in our sandbox.
Yeah, because remember, the whole key to this, I think, is how many insurance companies can we get to come and compete, which makes them competitive, which makes the rates go down.
Right.
If you don't have that, I don't think anything else works. You have to have more insurance companies in here, right? I mean, if you don't, there's no way to be competitive.
No, exactly. In the meanwhile, you see you're counting down. You got 4 shows left. You coming down Friday?
What you mean Friday?
For the Rougarou game.
That's this Friday?
That's this Friday. Hey,
oh my God.
No big deal if not.
You know what?
What?
I'm going to get back on that. Yeah, I'm going to have to try to make that happen because I want to do that. That was a lot of fun last year.
Okay, I don't know if we're throwing out the first pitch this time, though. So
no, it don't matter. Look, the best thing to happen is for us not to throw out the Hey, Brian, I'll make you a deal. If we're not throwing out the first pitch, you can count on me coming.
I thought you wanted redemption.
No, I don't need a redemption. I accept that the old arm don't make it no more.
I got more faith in you than you do, man. It's you get 1 or 2 warm ups and you know what kind of whip you need on that arm before it's.
Yeah, I need. Me and you need to pause for about 5 minutes, 90 feet apart, and then I'll be ready.
This is what I'm talking about. Absolutely. In the meanwhile, you come back from vacation. We don't have a whole lot on the election front this year. Where do you pivot to when you come back? I mean, is it business as usual because we don't have a lot that's running?
Yeah, Brian. What I do is I always think this is more the dead period now.
Yeah.
Usually when I get about the 1st to mid-August, there's just something always going on. Something always going on. I mean, I'm gonna start the show program today to talk about the Texas flooding because I'm about to throw my guts up on that. But it also proves that. I've seen stories, they're blaming Trump, they're blaming global warming. And the fact of the matter, if you could predict any of this stuff, nobody would ever get hurt. You never would be able to predict this stuff. And my gut, I could throw up saying these kids and this tragedy with this weather. It just breaks my heart.
Yeah, the number, I was talking with Jim Ryan from ABC News in the first hour this morning. And one of the things that he was telling me was it's going to be hard to put a definitive number on how many are still missing. Because just with open campgrounds and everything, they don't know how many people were out there.
No, and that's a good point that you just made. It's probably no telling how many people were killed, and there were miracles left and right that happened as well. But it's just sad. But you remember 2016, Brian, when we got hit with the flood? Y'all did, we did, a lot of people around the state. That wasn't predicted. Nobody can predict a weather system coming in and just sitting on top of you like it did. And I don't care if we get rid of, if you got 100,000 meteorologists or one or none. You cannot predict that, and it never will be predicted.
Well, as I understand it, on the federal level or state level, the alerts went out in San Antonio. It was kicking it back down to the local level where it's looking like things may have gotten out of joint. So that's
I just don't think you can predict it, and people got plans and they go through. By the way, I just got the text. Speaking of the House, Congressman Mike Johnson on at 10:06.
There it is.
Bill.
All right, we will make sure to be tuned in. Let me let you get after it. He's Moon Griffon. You hear him 9 to 11 right here on Talk 107.3 FM. Talk to you soon, brother.
Thank you, brother. Thank you, my friend.
Here's news. Oh. we cooking? So stupid. Oh. So stupid. Nope. Mm. Nope. All right, get that all cleared out. I hate coming back from a holiday weekend with 400 unread emails over a holiday weekend. I'm sorry, 397. I don't mean to over exaggerate. Oh. Oh. Here's what we're looking at today. Actually, a little bit cooler today than we saw in previous weeks. Your high is going to get up to about 90 degrees. That might eclipse 100 with the heat index. We do have a 40% chance of rain today. There's a chance of showers throughout the early afternoon hours and the early evening hours as well. You know how it works this time of year, and you should get those pop-up storms that roll through. But look for a 30 to 40% chance, like I said, throughout the lunch hours and then the early evening. Rinse and repeat for tomorrow. High of 89, low of 73. Same thing for Wednesday. Thursday is when the chance of rain significantly increased to about a 65% chance with a high of 88. And then we're looking at a high of 92 on Friday. Right now, we're at 83 degrees and sunny in downtown Baton Rouge. It has been a long time coming, and the day is almost here. Talk about the Amtrak Mardi Gras service. The service from New Orleans to Mobile and back begins on August 18th. One of the many things we'll be talking about is we welcome back Kelly Schulz, Senior VP of Communications and PR for New Orleans and Company. Kelly, welcome back. How are you this morning?
Thank you. It's nice to be here. How are you?
No, I'm doing good. Glad to have you on this morning. Tickets are actually already on sale right now for the new Amtrak Mardi Gras service. Can we rewind the clock to talk about what put this thing back in motion?
Sure. Well, we're so happy that it is back in motion, and now we have a date that we can announce, which is August 18th. The service will start. It's been many years since we've had this Amtrak service from New Orleans to Mobile, but we're really excited that it's finally happening again. This has been a great partnership between all of the destinations, between here in Mobile and the Southern Rail Commission, and of course Amtrak. So we're very excited.
The here in Baton Rouge, there's been a lot of talk more than a dozen years going on now of growing service between New Orleans and Baton Rouge. Would this be part of that? Is there room for expansion within this Amtrak Mardi Gras service?
Sure. Well, I don't want to speak for Amtrak, but I certainly hope so. And I know that a lot of folks would love to be able to see service between New Orleans and Baton Rouge. This particular line will go from New Orleans to Mobile and then have stops in Pascagoula, Biloxi, Gulfport, and Bay St. Louis. So I know that expansion is the goal, and we'd love to see something connecting us to Baton Rouge.
What is the expected driver of the ticket sales here? Who's taking this train?
Well, I think it's a combination. So, as you said, the tickets are as low as $15, and you get discounts for children between the ages of 2 and 12, and also there are discounts for seniors, veterans, families, and groups. So I think this is going to be good for those who are leisure travelers who are maybe wanting to take a day trip to go see different spots along the Gulf Coast, maybe spend a day in beautiful Bay St. Louis and then come back. But it's also good for those who are coming here for meetings or conventions or business.
Right.
So having another option to get to and from. And then I'll tell you, there's a lot of interest in the international media and international tour operators. International travelers typically stay longer and spend more money than those travelers from within the U.S. And so we've talked to several of those international guests who are excited to come and experience this new service.
Very cool stuff. We're talking with Kelly Schulz. She's the Senior VP of Communications and PR over at New Orleans and Company. While that is a big announcement, it's not the only announcement. 4th of July weekend in New Orleans means Essence Fest weekend. Do we have any preliminary reports here?
Don't have any final numbers yet. When we talked to the hotels prior to the weekend, they were projecting to be at about 85% occupancy on Saturday night, which is pretty good. We'll be getting some final hotel occupancy numbers here in the next week or so. But Essence was a great weekend. Everyone I talked to that was there said it was great energy, great excitement. Essence has been a partner of ours for over 3 decades, and we love this event. We're so honored to host Essence. It's really synonymous with New Orleans, and there are so many cities out there who would love to have an event this prominent over a 4th of July weekend. So we had a number of customers in town that we were showcasing not only the Essence Festival, but also the city of New Orleans and how we are built to host. We also hosted several journalists who were here to report on the fest and also on the city. So all in all, it was a good weekend, and those who were here had really good things to say.
I think with Essence Fest, it often gets wrapped up in the concerts, but there's so much more that goes on along with that.
That is right. When we say New Orleans is built to host, it's really one of those things where you utilize the convention center during the day and then the Caesars Superdome at night, and everything is compact and walkable with your hotels and restaurants right there. But this event is so much more than those evening concerts. There are empowerment seminars throughout the day. There are all of these different curated experiences. So there's a beauty con, there's a film fest, there's something specifically geared for men. There's an authors event. There's all kinds of conversations about Black entrepreneurship and business. And as you saw over the weekend, there were a number of influential people that were in town for Essence. There was a Supreme Court justice who was here. There were several congressional leaders, lots of national media. So this is a really good way to showcase New Orleans.
The Kelly, I don't know if you saw or not, but there were some folks over on I found them on TikTok trying to push that Essence Fest was empty. I don't know if you saw this. They were pushing out videos like as soon as doors to the Caesar Superdome opened at 6 for the concerts, they'd grab their seats and like take a quick 15-second video and post it up being like, "What's up? Where is everybody?" It's like, well, doors opened at 6. The show doesn't start till 8. Give it a minute.
Right, and I don't want to speak for Essence about attendance figures, and I don't know that we have those final numbers. But Essence is something that has performances. Yes, the doors may open at 6, but there are performances at 8, 9, 10, 11, midnight that go into the early hours of the morning. So. Oh no, it was gorgeous, Kelly, because as soon as someone would post that, it would just be flooded with comments of like, "You're full of it. Here's the real deal." People responding with other videos showing, "Here's how the crowd picked up along the way." It was cool to see the truth just sneak itself back out. Yeah. Yeah, that's great. Essence has so many loyal fans and loyal followers, and what a great opportunity to come and see these big name acts back to back to back over 3 nights in the Caesar Superdome. So we love our Essence guests. There are a lot of great events all over the country, and so we appreciate that there are such loyal Essence fans who come back year after year over 4th of July weekend and participate in this and spend their hard-earned money here. We appreciate it, and we love Essence, and looking forward to a strong partnership going forward.
And now you pivot over to GalaxyCon coming in this weekend?
That's right. New Orleans and Company is working really hard to bring in big events over the summer. Everyone talks about the summer being slow, but if you look at the calendar, we have several big events that we have secured and brought to the city. And one of those is this coming weekend with GalaxyCon. So this is more than a comic book show. There are, like Essence, this brings in a lot of loyal fans, celebrities, different types of stars and influencers who are going to be here. There'll be thousands of people. And again, your listeners can come on down and purchase tickets. Tickets start at $40. The event is at the New Orleans Memorial Convention Center. So it's really a lot of fun. And again, very, very loyal following, and we're happy to be able to welcome them this coming weekend starting on July 11th.
Yeah, this is so much broader than so not just a Comic-Con, but it broadens out to so many different universes there. I know I've seen pictures with people dressed up as Shrek, and then I can tell you Murr from Impractical Jokers is going to be down there. Like it covers such a wide spread of different fandoms.
It's such a widespread, and again, their followers are very, very loyal to GalaxyCon. They have a very loyal base that travels to these shows. We've never hosted this show before, so this is something that as our convention sales team is out there looking for opportunities and business, we're happy to find GalaxyCon and partner with them. We're looking forward to a great weekend, and tickets are available. This is one of those shows that are open to the public, and Louisiana residents can get their tickets and go over to the convention center and enjoy.
We're talking with Kelly Schulz from New Orleans and Company, and then you turn it around for the very next weekend for the big Dustin Poirier, grand finale, I guess, with Holloway versus Poirier in UFC 318.
That's right. Another first for us. We've never hosted a UFC national championship event, but that's going to take place on July 19th. And again, Louisiana native, Dustin Poirier is a Louisiana native from Lafayette. And so he's going to be here for the final fight of his career. So we know that there's a lot of buzz around that, a lot of excitement. Again, another event that draws many different types of loyal fans who are going to come here and really, showcasing these top combat athletes. And we're looking forward to a strong weekend.
New Orleans, so UFC is one thing, but New Orleans has a tradition for the fights. I mean, it was originally a huge boxing hub.
Yeah, it is. We're a popular sports destination overall, right? If you look at whether it is a NCAA Final Four or an NBA All-Star game or Super Bowls, as we just saw a fantastic Super Bowl, there is a lot of interest in sports overall coming to New Orleans. Again, it's that built to host factor. It's the Smoothie King Center, the Superdome, the Convention Center, hotels and restaurants, all within a 1 or 2 mile area of each other. So you're not going to be in a shuttle going an hour outside of the city to get to the arena where your sporting event is taking place. Everything is right downtown in the heart of the city. And then, of course, we know how to host events better than anyone else. We have the expertise, we have the hospitality, and we have the world-class culture to back it up. And that really leaves fans with that memorable experience and wanting more and wanting to come back for more events.
We got about a minute and a half left with Kelly Schulz from New Orleans and Company. Going to ask you over the course of the rest of the summer, between July and August, pick one event. Which one event are you looking most forward to?
Well, what I'm looking most forward to starts on August 1st, which is our culinary restaurant promotion. So every summer we offer restaurant deals. There's over 85 restaurants so far that have signed up, and many more are signing on. Culinary offers restaurants from all over the city, many different neighborhoods. You can get a 2-course lunch for $28 or less, and a 3-course dinner or brunch for $58 or less. So that's one of my favorites. Of course, we tell people, go enjoy a culinary meal, maybe stay at a hotel downtown, enjoy the hotel pool, go to a museum, really make it a weekend or make it a little staycation, or for those in Baton Rouge, a trip not too far from home.
She is Kelly Schulz with New Orleans and Company. We always appreciate the time. Thanks for hopping on board.
Thank you.
Absolutely. We got Your Money Now coming up in a little bit less than a minute. Let me remind you about the folks at Mathern's. You know where to find them. They're downtown on 3rd Street. They're in the Nicholson Gateway Shopping Center, and they're back in their original Baton Rouge location. That's Highland, just west of Kenilworth. Always tell you about the great deals that are offered up over at Mathern's. In fact, heading into the 4th of July weekend, there were so many great deals on meat. And I know about them because I get them sent directly to my phone because I have the Mathern's Rewards app, which allows me to earn cash towards more groceries every time I shop. And you can, too. Download the Mathern's app today. Let me do Vex on the way back in, and then I'll toss to Jim Ryan as much as we can before we get out. I'm fading fast, dude. I'm going to pack up and get out of here because me and Kate are heading down to New Orleans for a funeral. So, guys, we're just going to leave this running when we get out. Jim Ryan from ABC News we're gonna replay that for the 6 o'clock hour, just because it's the biggest news in the world right now. So I'm gonna bow out with like 3 minutes to go. But John's gonna walk that all the way up to the news at the top of the hour, and then we'll cut off the Facebook feed. So I'm gonna go ahead and say bye right now because that's coming up later, or we'll be, midway through when that comes up. So appreciate y'all hopping on board today. All right. Brian Trasher from United Kitchen Navy tomorrow at 7:15. Now I need an 8:15 tomorrow, and I'll be set. Actually, no. All my shit's cleaned up. Upstairs. I'll text you the headlines once we're out on the road. And I already told Adeline I was going to a funeral today, so she's going to come in tomorrow instead of today. Getting Palermo to upload the press club's audio so she can work from there. How long's the Jim Ryan interview? Okay. .856 Talk 107.3 FM WBRP. About to get out of here. Before we do, want to remind you about the folks at VexEuropean.com. VexEuropean.com. Jaguar owners specifically. If you've been wondering where you're going to take your car for maintenance or service ever since the Jaguar dealership closed, check out VexEuropean.com. They have a master level, an expert level technician over there. You're not left in the lurch here. Vinny and his team have got you covered at VexEuropean.com. All right, obviously the biggest story in the world right now is the catastrophic Texas flooding. More than 80 pronounced dead already. Untold numbers are missing. Earlier in the show, I got to speak with Jim Ryan from ABC News. He's there. He's in Kerr. I tell you what, here's what we're going to do. We're just going to play out as much of that interview as we can, take you all the way up to the top of the hour, and then we'll hand off to Moon Griffon. So here's Jim Ryan from earlier this morning. Joining us now from ABC News is Jim Ryan. Jim, I appreciate a couple minutes this morning. How are you, sir?
Good, Brian. I'm right in Kerrville, where the worst of the damage came. Looking down onto the river, it's still running fast and high right now, but nothing like it was 3 days ago. Along the banks of the river, you see huge trees that have been toppled over by the force of the water that came through here when this extreme flash flooding happened and took everything in its path, not just the trees, but the cars, the trucks, buildings, entire campgrounds, and the people in those campgrounds. Latest fatality count now stands at 80, including many children.
80 with, and the what I'm understanding, Jim, is they don't know how to count who's still unaccounted for because there's
Right.
the number of independent campers that were out there.
Exactly, right. We know how many people were registered at these day camps. I think 11 children, 11 girls from this Camp Mystic are still missing. But, yeah, there's no way of knowing. I mean, if somebody drove up with an RV and parked it there in one of these campgrounds, there's no official count of how many people might have been there. So we might never know how many people were lost in this disaster.
Unbelievable stuff. We're talking with ABC News' Jim Ryan about the tragedy in Texas over the weekend. Jim, let's talk about emergency response or emergency alert. Do we know what went wrong and at what level?
Well, I don't know if anything went wrong. We know that the Weather Service at San Antonio started putting out advisories on Wednesday, a couple of days before the flood happened. But that's not uncommon for this area. This is known as flash flood alley because flash flooding is such a common occurrence. And especially in the summertime, you get a rainfall and flash flooding is likely to happen. Certainly nothing like we saw, though, on Friday. You had moisture coming in from the Gulf, moisture from the Pacific, and then coming down from the South Plains, and it all combined for this really horrific situation. And to top it all off, it was 3:30 in the morning. People were fast asleep. So even if warnings had been issued, a lot of people just wouldn't have heard them.
Jim, has this ever happened before? I heard over the weekend that like about 40 years ago they saw a similar instance.
Well, it does happen. Again, not to this extent, but in 1987 there was a flood similar to this one A school bus with 10 kids on board was washed away. But that happened in the middle of the afternoon. I talked with a woman yesterday. She was went to Camp Mystic in 1957 as a child. They had a flood that year too. So it does happen occasionally. But again, this one's going to be one for the history books in terms of its intensity and certainly its death count.
When talking about search and rescue, and I hate to ask this question so soon, but what kind of timelines have they laid out for it, if they've laid out any?
Well, they haven't. I mean, they're trying to keep their hope up and keep the hope.
All right, Facebook. We'll see you tomorrow. Thanks for joining us today.